32% of all phone calls go unanswered during business hours. And then after hours, obviously your answer rate's, 0. And so it's worse. 56% of hygiene patients are overdue in the average practice management software. And then third, $2.4 million of unscheduled treatment is the average amount of unscheduled treatment that sits on $1 million practice's books. So like what you're saying is like practices miss a shit ton of opportunity.
So for today, I figured this is probably, we always joke and we're like, all the topics end up being things like I'm more interested in than you are.
What do you mean?
That's like
I don't think so.
Ongoing joke. No, like on the last one I just recorded, you said that. But anyways, on this week, I feel like this is one topic that kind of probably like grinds your gears or whatever that phrase is more. And it's probably more of like dealing with costs within your practice.
Okay.
I know that's always been an issue for you.
Paying money for stuff?
Yeah.
No, being efficient.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think.
But no, so anyways, we were kind of saying, when we were looking at like Facebook groups or getting feedback from people on problems and issues they have, it seems like everyone's got like the same type of issue in dental right now is they're seeing if they take PPO, their insurance rates are still stagnant or they're going down. Everything's kind of stagnant, but then the one thing that is rising a ton, and I've seen it at our practices, is just staff costs, right? Whether it's people wanting more bonuses or when you're bringing in new people, it seems like the hourly rate is going up and up and up and up.
Yep.
And so one thing we thought we could have a good discussion with today is bringing on Cory, who's the head of Reach, which they do a lot of work with hiring VAs or say outsourcing your front office person or whoever it is and having someone overseas do it.
Yep.
And then our good friend Deren too, he's building an AI receptionist, right? So these are like, I feel like these are the two big solutions that people are seeing right now when they're saying, hey, maybe I don't want to hire that new person in my front desk. Like, what are the other options I have? So we figured that could be cool to bring them on. So thanks for coming on, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah. So I don't know. Earlier before we started this, Deren said he had a good way on how he wanted to frame it. So I'm going to let Deren take over for the next minute.
Sure. Yeah. I kind of see this as two definite problems and then a third problem that people probably should be aware of, but maybe aren't. You kind of framed the one where it's kind of rising costs and lowering reimbursement, and you got team members wanting more money, which is great. Like we want them to all be the top paid in the area and all that. But the other side, the kind of point number two, is a lot of them are coming in pretty unqualified, and your team may not have time to actually deal with them and jump in and train them. And that turnover gets kind of frustrating. So, and then third, point to bring up would be people aren't just trying to get in touch with your office during office hours. So trying to find people or software or whatever you choose to do to cover all your phones all the time gets really expensive or challenging with local people who want to work the same 8 to 5 you do. So I think we both kind of have some input and thoughts on that and how we can overcome it. But those are the kind of the three things I see as far as considerations for trying to find a better solution.
I'm going to lily pad because Alex and Eric started it. Then Deren took it farther to go deeper on like the after hours. Even if you look at a practice during open hours though, like let's look at the base data. 32% of all phone calls go unanswered during business hours. And then after hours, obviously your answer rate's, 0. And so it's worse. 56% of hygiene patients are overdue in the average practice management software. And then third, $2.4 million of unscheduled treatment is the average amount of unscheduled treatment that sits on $1 million practice's books. So like what you're saying is like practices miss a shit ton of opportunity.
Right.
And it's after hours, during hours. People don't even have the human capital, if properly staffed, to handle the amount that is going through their front desk team.
Well, yeah, I mean,
totally.
You think about it, that was always the thing we had. We even set ours up, Cory, because we were like, from consultants we listened to, they're like, what's the most important thing? It's like, don't miss that new patient call, right? So we even set up stuff within Mango, because that's who we use forever. We had it set up to where like the phone rang longer for new patients to even try to capture more of that. And I mean, it's still like, it kind of helped, but then you have to hope that your team also just isn't on a call with someone else or there's some other issue. So like, I feel like it helped a bit, but I don't know how much it actually helped. We still never had that, like, the second line of defense forever has been just a voicemail, right? And then you have to require, and then the person A then has to make a decision if they want to leave a voicemail, which I feel like I don't have data to back it up, but I feel like no one wants to leave a voicemail anymore.
A new
And
patient will leave a voicemail 14% of the time.
Okay,
If their
and
call
then
goes
and then the person has to actually go in and listen to the voicemail. You have to hope that you got the information you needed, right? Like, I guess your phone system could have the number on it, but still, like, that person then has to follow up, and you have to reach out to them again. I would equate it, so, like, at least when Deren and I and Alex were all doing practices, it was kind of the concept we learned too, where it was, if you want to get a higher case acceptance rate, make sure you talk to them, and I know the word close is bad, but, like, tell them they need the treatment and have them close on the treatment, like, either in the chair or right outside when you're there. Like, don't let them leave, because the rate at which they're likely to schedule is probably just a drop. And I would imagine it's the same concept with answering a phone.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they're going to call as soon as they hang up with you. They're calling your neighbor or your competitor and making the appointment there. Like, they're not waiting for that call back, if they even left a message in the first place. To Cory's point, like, that's not happening. So you got to answer the phones. You got to answer them as much as you can, because your success rate is kind of set on your interactions for the most part. But we'll talk about better practices on how to improve that, the quality of the rate too. But the quantity, you got to get them all to be able to make sure you fill up your chairs and catch all your opportunities and all that. So absolutely, I agree.
And Aaron, going back.
No, go ahead, Cory.
Your point, like, I think the problem was always mounting, but like where it reared its ugly head is COVID just broke the fundamental frontline staffing model in the United States. Costs went through the roof, reliability changed, people want to work in a remote position. And so I feel like where in dentistry it really became a common topic. And I think people thought in COVID, when they were like having to add to their hourly wages consistently, like it would stop. And the reality is, like, yes, maybe it's not as ferocious as it used to have been, but it's harder to hire, and it's harder to retain, and it's harder to retain really good talent than ever.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean,
Yeah. I know. Just within like the last couple of minutes, I've written down 4 cons for having like an in-office person.
It's not a hard sell for Alex.
Definitely not a hard sell for me. I know, because I'm doing pros and cons for each thing, because that's how my brain works. And right now we have, like, for having someone in-house, high staff costs, turnover, training, availability. It's like, okay, what's the pro? Like, I don't value having.
It probably depends on the task, right? Like, and I think that's what we kind of say is, like, if it someone, I'd be hard pressed to agree if someone said, hire a VA or have an AI receptionist do all of your treatment planning or do nuanced stuff. If it's like, doctor scheduled a crown and 2 fillings. Hey, I can really only do the 2 fillings right now. I'll do the crown in the new year, right? Like, I could understand, like, right now, you probably want a human converting that, right? Maybe in the future it won't be like that. So, I mean, that's like the one piece I feel like I need someone at the front that was like maybe my office manager, right, who was helping manage the team, and probably someone that's like treatment coordinator. But a lot of the other tasks...
And not even office manager, just like a floater. Someone that can do everything, every task if they needed to, but...
Yeah, but I mean, okay, so Cory, like in other industries, you probably know this better than we do. Are we behind the times a little bit in how people are saying outsourcing some of that talent? Like, if you go into... Restaurants isn't a good example, but like other examples of other industries, are a lot of other industries already doing this? And what I mean is kind of like, how like now a lot of us are doing like surcharging and doing that with credit cards. Like a lot of other industries were doing that, and then we kind of hit it later. Is that also happening with this?
Healthcare is predominantly behind. Dentistry within brick and mortar healthcare is seen as the early adopter. So within brick and mortar health, like within healthcare, or healthcare compared to other subsets, behind for sure. But dentistry, if you looked at, like, we have a business in optometry, we have a business in veterinary, we're in derm, and dentistry is your earliest adopters out of all of those industries.
What do you think that reason is for that?
Your slowest adopters, vet. Optometry is right behind dental. The income of dentists is the highest of brick and mortar healthcare driven businesses. And so I think, and they also have larger teams where instead of just having, let's say you run an audiology clinic, you really just have one person at your front.
Yeah.
And so I think the issue broke earlier on. And like one of my favorite quotes is like, definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting different results. And I think what Deren brings to the table and remote staffing brings to the table is like, we got to play the game different. Like dentistry, if you really think about it, since like the OG days of having a person at your front desk when you pulled up in your horse and walked in to get your tooth pulled out, has operated on a receptionist right in front of you. And I'm a deep believer, to actually disagree with Alex, the things that you need in a practice that I believe in is you need an office manager and you need someone who checks in and checks out patients. There are people who will put an iPad or a nicer version of it. Those are the two things that I do not believe should be done remotely, because the office manager is the liaison from business and clinical operations. And so you kind of need that in-office bridge. And then, yeah, you can have an iPad, but let's be honest, I go to my same dentist that I've gone to for years because they know me. They care about me. They ask about my siblings. They, wonder how golf is going this season or whatever it might be. That connection matters. When you go to a restaurant, you want good food. When you go to a dentist, you're letting them stick your hands in your mouth, their hands in your mouth. It's a little bit more of an intimate feeling. And so I think those things matter. But then new patient phone calls, insurance verifications, revenue cycle management, outbound recare calls don't need to take place in the practice, let alone the front desk.
Yeah, I agree. So what was your other cons, Alex? You were going through
those
your
were the four. Those
were all your four?
Yeah, those were the four.
Okay, so then, go ahead, Deren.
I was gonna say I've got a pro and a con. It's the same thing. It's that kind of can do it all person. Like if they can do it all, that might mean that what they prioritize and what they're doing in this moment precludes them from doing the thing that you want them to do, which is answer the phone when it rings. So, there is a benefit to having a singularly focused software or individual who only does that thing and can't get distracted, can't bring their problems to work, doesn't call out sick. All the things that come into play when you got somebody in the office that has, life going on and things that influence how they feel that day and how they perform that day and how distracted they are. Like, sometimes being able to do it all is great. Sometimes it's overwhelming and it means they're not doing any of it very well.
Totally. I think I've done this multiple times too with like the front and said, okay, the priority is you better answer that phone, like in a nice way. I won't yell at them, but like you answer that phone. I am not missing a new patient phone call, but also it's a priority to make sure this person gets presented the right treatment. And it's also a priority that you're looking at the AR and I've given them like 15 priorities. And what happens? Well, they don't do any of them or they like kind of do some and it's confusing. So yes, having someone that is dedicated to just doing that thing that can do it all the time, solves a huge issue.
So let's break down like the first part, right? And saying kind of going towards what Cory does, which is hiring someone to work at your office but remotely, right? I think being completely candid, we used 2.5 years ago, maybe somewhere around there. We used another company, right, that was doing that, and we honestly didn't get past like hiring the person because within the first week there were like several issues. I wanted to address maybe what some of our issues were, and you can.
I am mega curious. Not bringing the company into it as a practicing dentist when you owned your two practices. Like, okay, what were those big bubbles in the first couple of weeks? Because I'm very intrigued to see, because what you guys were doing at the very beginning, there are pros to cons to each of the services that we're going to talk about today. Like there is not a silver bullet for everything. And so there are things that a part of remote staffing people should be aware of or have expectations around.
Exactly.
Like
that's what it is.
Team member.
I think that's what gets missed a lot in dental is like transparent expectations, right? Because I think people like to sell, right? But I think if you do that, that helps. So like that's maybe what we can go through. So like our personal experience or our story with that is we had hired another company. They interviewed people. We then got to talk to them, see who was a good fit. And then we kind of told them, hey, we're using this PMS system. We use this thing. We use that thing. And then they helped. We had to help and they had to help get them trained up. But what started to happen pretty quickly was just either that person started to like call off or There were issues with like,
No, it was like,
I got
it was like the start date. It was like, okay, you're going to start on Monday, and here's all the training. Because I remember doing all the training.
Oh yeah, you know what? Actually, Alex did most of the work, which tracks in most of our life. So I'm gonna transfer
No,
this
I didn't
to you.
actually.
Yeah.
this was your idea.
Yeah.
For, okay.
My idea, she implements.
and then
That's usually what it
I'm
is.
like, okay, we got to train this. So here's all my training that I've trained my normal in-house people to do. Here's all of this, and then it was like, oh, I can't start that day because I'm sick. And I was like, okay, well, let's do our start date tomorrow or in 2 days. And then she's like, oh, I can't do it that way because it's this religious holiday. I was like, okay. And then it was like, oh, I can't do it because of this. There was like 4 excuses, and it was like 2 weeks of like, is this person coming on board or not? And then I think we were finally like, nope, she's not working
like, if it's
out.
already
We can't
starting
do
like this, it's not working. So
Yeah.
what I wanted to address with you is not, I guess we're not like complaining to have you solve our issues, Cory. But what,
oh no, and I'm even just like, this helps us learn the real experiences people have.
So one thing that I was curious on, and I know this probably, I don't know, it's probably not going to come across like PC or anything like that, but it's facts, right? We're a dental office in a certain time zone that has a predominant, like certain holidays that most people celebrate within the country, right? And your office is in there, right? So one area that I saw after like kind of reflecting on that situation was the challenge becomes if you're hiring someone that's from either a different part of the world or say part of, say, a culture that has certain holidays they observe or different things that would be very, very minority here, right? Which it's not, I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing. It's just facts. Mm-hmm. The problem becomes now they're available at times when the office isn't open, and then they're not available when you're open, and you want to respect people's religious observances and their say national holidays, even stuff like that. And I saw that as a potential gap. So like, do you guys see that on your end, and did you guys solve for that issue?
Yeah, this is a great conversation. So, and every company handles it different, but all of our teams work their office hours and they work their office holidays. And or they take off their office holidays. So it's not like because where I feel outsourcing in its traditional terms is broken is back in the day, you would hire a company to do your insurance verifications and you'd ship it off. You didn't know who was doing it, and you'd come back in the next morning and they were done, but it was at 75 or 80% quality. And you didn't ever talk to the person who did the work. You could call an account manager, you could call support. And because of it, outsourcing has gotten a bad reputation. What we believe in is you actually integrate the team members. They should be joining your morning huddle. If you have a weekly staff meeting, they should be on there. They should know that Eric woke up this morning and was sick, so he's not coming into work. We can't schedule in his column. And so everyone who joins our team knows the expectations. And let's take the really big step back. Labor in America is incredibly expensive. Depending on your state, you're looking from anywhere from $15 to $25 an hour when you factor in taxes, healthcare costs, all of that jazz. The reason people are looking at remote work is you can go pay someone really well in Argentina or Brazil, and the money can go incredibly far for them. So why is someone willing to give up their normal Brazilian holidays to work an American hours and schedule? Because the money is really good. For a base call center front desk role in Brazil, our starting wage puts you in the top 25% of countrywide earners. And so that's why people are looking at it. Like going back to some of the comments like that Deren made, like there's a lack of reliability sometimes in people in the United States with just how things are changing. Again, the facts are the facts. And so if we can go pay someone really well in another country, and then this is a job that they actually seek after, you can get people who are bought in and dedicated and willing to do what it takes. And I think the best thing that shows that is like we as a company, to give some data, in September, I think hired 98 new team members. We took 31,000 job applications. We do not run ads.
Wow.
And it's not like we're running the best branding out there. We got like signs in Brazil. Like I'm not here to claim that like we've got this sexy secret formula here. It's people in other countries want to work In the United States, it is seen as a Harvard or Stanford type of certification, and the money is real, and there's stability in US money and business.
Yeah, I mean, so to your point, we had an assistant for a few years at one of our offices, and you know where she was from? Venezuela, right? So I got to talk to her more about that. And she's a dentist in Venezuela, right? And came to the States because of how little they get paid there. And she was telling me some crazy stat, and this was a few years ago, so I don't know if it's still true or not, but she was saying that you can make more here in America working for McDonald's than as a dentist in Venezuela. So you had so like it's kind of problem solving the issue. She was in a situation where she moved to America to do an assistant job. You know, with companies like what you guys are doing, potentially she could stay with her family and be with her mom or dad or whatever and still probably get paid very similarly and still be there as well. So I mean, that is kind of that's
We
kind of
have
cool.
over 100 dentists on our team
Yeah.
Wow.
that gave up
cool.
clinically practicing to then make, and keep in mind, your cost is half of what baseline labor is, even in the United States, and that money goes far for them. Ultimately, it's a arbitrage, but not where you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. Practitioners need a gap today because rent costs more, weave costs more, dentrix costs more, gloves cost more, and United and Delta ain't paying out anything more. So you're squoze. How do you create that margin but still give reliability? You play the game different, or you look at solutions like what Deren's created.
If you like our podcast, check out Alex's newsletter, Just 2 Minutes. It's full of great advice, which makes sense considering it's her thoughts and not me sidetracking her every 2 seconds. You can subscribe at coupleofdentists.com. The link is in the show notes. Now, back to the pod.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think I don't disagree that having a well-trained human answer the phone is going to probably be the best solution for almost every office. But that's the challenge right now. Obviously, Cory's got a great option for that with, well-trained and potentially even a dentist on your team. They're willing to work your hours. I imagine they speak really fluent English and don't, have any limitations in that regard. I'll just add the thing that AI can do in addition to some of these kind of requirements or agreements to work your hours is AI will work any and all hours, and you can call it in the middle of the day on Christmas. It doesn't care what time it is. So that's just kind of an additional benefit to it being AI is it's literally 24/7, 365 if you want. And it scales with your practice as far as like number of calls. I mean, the limitation of any human, unfortunately, is they can only do one call at a time or, alternate between a couple on hold or whatever, but that's not always the best experience for people. An AI, especially mine, can answer a couple dozen calls simultaneously with the same person on the phone, if you will, the same voice on the phone with the same integration with your software and the same training. It's the exact same carbon copy of the person dozens of times if you'd like. So you literally cannot miss a call with this AI.
Okay.
Deren,
ahead, Cory.
one quick. So I think all the time people look at our business and they look at like the difference between Deren's and I's business, and they look like there's a level of conflict. And on the surface, there appears to be chewing at the same pie. Here is my personal stance on AI is Deren's solution should actually be, or any AI automation software should actually be implemented first. Because at the end of the day, if it can do it well, it's more consistent and it's more cost effective. So if you can do your confirmation calls, or if you could do your recare calls, or whatever it might be, if you can automate, it's like Amazon. Amazon's going to automate the package to as close as they can to me. And so like someone still has to come in and get it to my doorstep. But every day, Amazon is working on automating and making that last mile of delivery less. I do not believe, especially in healthcare, that we're heading into a world where it is one or the other. I look at AI and people as like a seamstress and a sewing machine. They augmented each other to build a way higher output and a way more consistent reality. But instead of putting in people first, it should be what can we automate that still gives good patient care? And knowing that that automation with AI is going to continue to evolve at like a dizzying rate. That goalpost is going to move. And then where remote or in practice labor actually helps is getting done the things that AI is not there at yet. People need the human touch on. It's a little bit more personable. And that's the way I think we need to continue to look at the problem. It's not one or the other, but it's the proper layering of these technologies to build the tomorrow's hybrid dental practice.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So, Deren, I want to challenge you on a few things, right? And this is all, for me just hearing about things on Facebook groups and stuff like that is I feel like, and maybe Cory, you can give your thoughts too, is I feel like the biggest challenges you hear now, because I literally think when I spend 30 seconds, well, I spend way more than 30 seconds scrolling on Facebook, but in a 30-second span of scrolling on Facebook, I probably see 3 dental AI receptionist ads, right? Like it's everywhere, right? And so I think a lot of us as practitioners who aren't the ones actually building this stuff, we're like, okay, like is this just all a bunch of like hype and kind of bullshit and like it actually kind of sucks? And then we hear in Facebook groups, right? You got some people who are like, my thing is better than Chat GPT, and I'm like, I highly doubt that, man. Like I don't think that's the case. And then you hear also other people saying like, yeah, but like the quality of the call really isn't good. It's not better yet than a human. So like its conversion rate of taking a patient and scheduling them is like, I think I've heard like 30%, right? Whereas a human is probably better, right? Or outsourcing it to a VA, whatever. If it's human versus the other way, what do you have to say to kind of those concerns where it's the call answer rate isn't as good, or it just kind of sucks?
Yeah, I mean, to that point, it's all training. It's all what is it capable of, and in the same way, a human, like you got to train them, and it's got to be capable of everything you're asking it to do. I think that's where mine shines. I mean, mine is from the ground up. There's plenty of them out there that are call center trained with a little bit of an add-on added to the package to make it feel a little bit dental. Like maybe it's got a little bit of vocab or something, but it's not built by a dentist who runs a dental office, who understands what's going to get asked on the phone, how to schedule, what operatories and procedures and lengths of procedures and all that should look like, and all the little nuances that go into a really quality interaction. And kind of to Cory's point earlier about sewing machine and seamstress, I kind of think about the difference in what we do here is the same thing that dentists consider when they're working in their office is they don't literally go do everything in the dental office. They delegate the lower level tasks to the most capable version, the lowest cost but still capable person in their office to do that thing, so that they're freed up to do the thing that they can only do and that they do best. So whether it's you or your office manager, your hygienist, like you're not hands-on everything all the time. You have assistants who make your temps. They take your x-rays, like they polish the teeth. You try to do only things that you can do. And in the same way, if you've got a well-trained treatment coordinator or whoever, like you want them to be able to do the thing they do and not get distracted by a phone call if possible, or whatever you want to outsource to a VA. They can focus on that thing and be really good at and efficient at that thing. And then the people in your office do the things that an in-office person is required to do, and they can do it really well.
The training that we see in office, like have someone come in, you have to train them. You have to build the system and give them the playbook of what to do, what to say, all the rules. When it comes to, I want to hear from both of you, what does the training look like on the AI side, if there's any, and what does the training look like on the VA side?
Sure.
Deren,
You
want me to go first, or?
I'll jump in. I'll go. I mean, the AI training, in mine, I can only speak to mine. I've only seen and demoed a couple. I've never gone all the way on board. So, but for mine, like you literally, there's some I know that scrape like your website and stuff. And those are, I think, inferior. Like that's not really everything about your office and all the little nuance and details that's in the brain of somebody who needs to understand how to schedule for you. It's better than nothing, I assume, maybe, but it's not as good as it needs to be. So for me, I have a pretty robust onboarding. A full questionnaire about what insurances do you take? Do you take your state's Medicaid? What do you call it in your state? Do you see kids? Do you see walk-ins? What insurances do you take? It's a whole multi-page thing. It's going to take you 30 minutes to an hour. But the positive of training an AI is you literally do it once, and it will always, within reason, if it's a quality AI, not hallucinate, not get off track, not forget, not break. And so I think that's important to note. Like, those things have to happen, and that's why you want to make sure you choose the right company to make that happen for you. But that's the beauty of a computer, is it should just do the same thing consistently. I mean, we all deal with technology in our office. It works great until it doesn't, and that will always be the case. But it should be less frequent interaction and patching and updates. But you still got to tell it, if a provider comes and goes, or you change your insurance status, like, it doesn't know that. Like, you still do have to update it and interact, but it's only ad hoc, and it's only once theoretically, and then it's off to the races. So that's a little bit of a difference.
So, like, before you jump in, Cory, kind of,
No.
and you guys let me know your thoughts. It seems like we were talking about, like, pros and cons of everything. It seems like computers in general, or AI, where it shines over a human is like consistency and doing the same task over and over again and doing it in a repeatable, similar way. Where maybe it struggles is when a human is better, maybe right now, maybe forever, at when something veers off course, right? And there's something that you kind of have to use, like, your human brain for. That's where that might be better. Is that how you guys
Absolutely.
see it? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, part of what I'm trying to overcome, and what most AIs are trying to overcome, is those kind of forks, and being a little bit fluid with the conversation, and not being so down the middle, singularly focused. Like, yes, my job is scheduling, but, like, if you tell me you got a toothache, I should at least respond to that. I shouldn't just say, let's find the next appointment for you. Like, I should be, have a little empathy, respond to you, say, I'm sorry you're dealing with that, and then, move into the next phase. So yes, that is a challenge for AI. Good ones should be able to at least fork a little bit and then get back on the main road. But a human can do that way better. And I don't know that AIs are going to really be able to pull in everything that a human would have context around, with the office and the personnel and the hours. I mean, that's a lot to process. That I don't think an AI is going to get there anytime soon, but that's the goal. I mean, that's what we want to be able to do if we're trying to really do our job well.
It's so, like, I've been in dentistry for 9 years now, owning my own company. So, like, built from, like, the call center days, and then AI started coming in. Eric, to go to your earlier comment, like, there are 30 companies in dental AI scheduling right now that have raised over $1 million. So, like, there's a lot of players, because dentistry has a really big TAM. And so when a, Stanford, Harvard, PhD engineering grad looks at, oh, where do I go do my startup, and then go to Y Combinator, dental is often the answer. But dental underneath the hood, as all of us have realized, is there's a lot more nuance. There's scheduling irregularities, there's insurance by practice, there's doctors changing. And so it will be a very interesting time. I think where Deren's product and others can excel is if they can mirror industry best practices. Because let's strip it back. People pull up a chair to train in dental, and they're just handing someone else what they have been told. Where I think AI can even excel is, can they take your practice details, but then take, like, industry best new patient, existing patient, how to handle a cancellation attempt. And if you can do that, like, it is hard to then train individually at, 200,000 practices across the US and get that level of consistency. And that's where I think it can go over the next little bit and be really fascinating. But it's so complicated because of the level of practice nuance, and then all of the practice management softwares, and then scheduling access. Like, I do not envy Deren's job at all, because it is very simple on the surface, and then you go a layer deep and you realize it is a behemoth to do it well.
Oh, it
Yeah,
seems
I mean,
stressful just from, like, what we've been talking about, Deren, too, is, like, I feel like I would have, how, like, when you have anxiety, you're like, I hope this crown's going to fit, right? And, like, it's, like, right when the assistant's about to take the x-ray, and there's, like, that moment of panic you have. Yeah. You're like, I feel like if I was developing yours right now, every time there was a call, I'd have this, like, constant, like, anxiety moment of, like, oh God, I hope I thought of, like, this question that someone could ask. And then you have people who just ask random fucking questions, and you're like, this thing probably doesn't even know how to do that. So yeah, I agree. I don't envy that. I think you're doing a good job of solving it, but I think it's probably which is good. It's a hard solve, but when you solve it, it'll be good. But sorry,
yeah.
we went off on Cory's. Tell us about training on all your stuff.
On training, we look at our training a little different. What we do is we provide the practice access to something called Reach University, and they can then come in and say, I use Dentrix, Weave, Pearl, Vine, Trellis to do RCM, and here's what my team member is going to do. They're going to do new patient phone calls, recare calls, and unscheduled treatment follow-up. And our system then builds what we call a learning journey, where you go through HIPAA compliance, you go through intro to dentistry, but then it trains you on Dentrix or Open Dental. Then it trains you on Mango Voice or Weave. Then it trains you on the art of converting new patients. So instead of just saying, hey guys, here's your dentally trained VA where they know terminology and HIPAA, and then they open up Open Dental where they got a 30-minute intro to that and EagleSoft and Denticon, we train specifically on those niches, but then they can log in at any point and redo those courses so that it's not just like getting blasted by a fire hydrant, but it's the relevant training for what they need. And then if you come back and say, hey, we're now taking this insurance, they can go enroll in the best way to verify for, Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield Colorado, and they get actually the relevant training instead of just like a high level, I'm going to hit you with a fire hydrant, and then turn it over to the practice where they're really not ready to go.
We all know Eric wants more friends. If you're enjoying this episode, share the podcast and then tell them to DM Eric so he can hit his quota of one new friend per day. Now back to the episode.
See, that's kind of cool because that was always one gap that I had because we tried hiring someone remote and then it didn't go through. And then when I was looking back at it too, I was like, well, would I have to do a ton of this work too? Because I'm like, is it worth it, right? Like, I feel like every dentist at their core, we're all pain in the asses to deal with anyway. So we want to pay the least amount and do the least amount of work, right? But and I understand that's like unrealistic expectations, but I think that's most of us. So it is kind of nice to see that you guys have built out a lot of those best practices, but just so people understand, there still is an expectation. You still have to train. You still have to keep this person accountable. I think that's
what I wanted to hop into, because I think we started that way with what are the pros and we can make fundamental, almost like we talked about, best practice training possible. Guess what? We don't know how long you schedule new patients for. We don't know that you don't allow 5 family members to be booked back to back to back to back to back. And so this is still a human. The great thing about Deren's software, when you do your onboarding for an hour, you flick the switch, guess what? It's pretty damn consistent. You still have to give the nuances to our team. And at the end of the day, they're still a human. So yes, they can do almost anything you can throw at them, but you got to talk to them. You got to update them. And so that is where there is continued investment, and it's not a light switch.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that applies to my stuff, Cory's stuff, where you use a call center, you got somebody in your office. There's literally nothing that's set it and forget it forever. It's just a matter of how many moving parts do you have, how much change is happening in your practice, and you got to tell whoever that person is that's answering your phone or software that's answering your phone, they have to know what's changed in your practice, or else they're not going to do anything differently. They're going to do what they've been trained to do.
Yeah. So one of the columns I don't have filled in right now for the AI receptionist. So Deren, this is directed at you. So I have the pros for the most part. We'll just do high level ones. As we said, they can get any and all calls. There's 100% call rate pretty much. There's limited training and there's consistency. So what are the big cons for going with an AI receptionist?
Yeah, I mean, the quality of the voices and the fact that it is a computer has been a con for a long time. I feel like they're coming a long way, and mine are as current as they can be. I mean, that's the beauty of what I'm building is I'm building it. It's not a wrapper on somebody else's stuff. So if better voices come out or a faster LLM on the back end makes it better, I'm implementing that immediately. So it is a con, and it's a con for a lot of them. And it's been a con for me as I've gone through the development, but it's all catching up. And then it's not, kind of to the forks in the road and all that stuff. it struggles sometimes to understand every nuance of a practice. Like, we're trying to continually train, continually grow the knowledge base and the scenarios that it's going to encounter, but it only knows what it knows. And until we encounter that thing once or twice and get the feedback that it broke or failed or whatever happened, it's got to have that, that feedback, and to be able to actually grow and improve and be everything that a human can be. So I think there's a lot of value in human capital, and humans answering phones and doing anything they can in your practice, just because the ability to incorporate other aspects of knowledge. I mean, mine doesn't have RCM in its arsenal. It doesn't understand treatment plans yet. It can't answer questions about, kind of to Cory's point, like it's going to schedule 5 people in a row if that's open on your schedule. Like I don't have those. I mean, maybe that's something I can build in. I'll have to explore it, but that's not currently a rule implemented for me. So there are strengths to teaching a human who can understand little things that would be hard to program, and have flexibility around and understand situational details sometimes.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like kind of like the big takeaway on all of it is, and Cory kind of mentioned it earlier, is like you need to think of we need to agree there's like an issue right now where I was reading something. It was like something that 40% of dental offices feel like they could hire someone else, right? So they're either
Or like
struggling.
short-staffed.
Yeah, they're short-staffed. There's someone else they could bring on in their team, and those costs are just rising a lot in the U.S. to do. And so these are solutions you can use, and it seems like, and what kind of helped me is I kind of saw it the same way before this conversation of like you have to pick A or B, you like not A and B, right? And
Well, I think so I come at it not like choose one or whatever it is. It's what's going to give me the best result. And if we're saying, hey, we can't do this, and if you don't want to hire someone in-house, because who wants to do that now? But if you want to take the AI receptionist and layer on the VA receptionist as well, is that still more cost effective? Because now I'm dealing with 2 things. Is that still cheaper than hiring someone up front?
I mean, I don't know. In Colorado, probably hell yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I honestly,
probably,
like entry level people that are at the front are now wanting like 26, 27 an hour. Like,
So let's
it's
just
nuts.
really high level go over like kind of cost ranges so that we can give a couple people who listen to us an idea of of what we're looking at.
We're straight up. We're $11 an hour. Full stop.
Okay.
Yeah, in mine, I've got 2 levels of product. One, I've been surprised that people have been as interested in it as they have been. It's an unintegrated, just a really good, solid voicemail taker that gets patient, information with ID and insurance information, and would just relay that to the practice. That's $295 a month. If you want the integrated version with your practice, it starts at $495 a month. So it's less than $15 an hour all in on that, and no taxes, and it's actually a cost to your business, so you get to lower your income because of that. So there's benefits to that too. But yeah, I mean, I think to answer your question, there is absolutely a world where you should do both, and that's actually how I do it at my practice. Like when you call, and Eric, you even heard the phone call, like when you call my practice and you hit 1 as a new patient, it immediately forks into, you can schedule with me, the AI receptionist, or I can let you wait a second and talk to a live human, and it'll ring my office. So I still give people the choice, even highly believing in my product, just because humans want to talk to humans sometimes. And I think that's an issue that will have to be overcome through the technology improving enough where people like it, or at least trust it, and are willing to interact with it. That's an issue. So it's not one that I, fail to acknowledge. It's definitely an issue, and it's one that I just give people the choice in my own practice.
Nice, cool. So that seems to work.
I think that makes sense. Yeah, that's kind of what I would do. I would look at the numbers, and then, like we said through this whole thing of like consistency, and someone, the cost is great. They become part of your team, so it's like they're part of your team, but not really there. I mean, I think there's the pros of doing both are, I don't know, just much higher than all.
Yeah,
of the
I mean, I think
issues
if we were starting out again and doing startups from like scratch, I would probably do this, or I'd very strongly consider doing this when I even started with it. So
yeah, I think so too.
Cool. Well, yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on, talking all about this. We'll have to have you guys come on again because I feel like there's like 50 other topics that my brain can just, like we talked about forking, go down. So that would be fun if you guys are open to it.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Cool.
everybody.